A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the merciful. Welcome to our session on life with COVID-19, where we are assessing and analyzing the impact of COVID-19 virus on the various segments of our life. As we all know, this pandemic has affected almost everyone in the world in some or the other form. But one area, one segment is so critical and important where everyone is concerned about is the impact of COVID-19. First of all, definitely on health, and after health is economy, because economy means earning your livings and our survival of our body in this world. If you look at the economic impact, the economy today after the post-COVID-19 is, you can say, is crushed between two factors. On one hand is the virus itself, the pandemic itself. As the virus goes down in certain countries, they ease on lockdowns, they've eased on social distancing so people can come out without any fear and start to live their life normally and work, and the economic cycle and the economic wheel can turn. But on the other hand, also, there are those people, those lobbies who want to control the world, and they don't want this COVID-19 to go away from our life. They want to keep it alive. Till the time COVID-19 is alive, without any vaccination, without any proper treatment, the fear will be there in the minds of the people, and this fear also is varying in different parts of the world. And in a world in which we are living, which is interweaved economy today, it will have an economic impact. If you see with COVID-19, hundreds of millions of people already have lost their jobs, and hundreds and millions might lose their job due to the impact of this virus. And this is the figure which United Nations Work Agency is warning about, that if the pandemic doesn't come in control, hundreds of millions can be without work. If you look at currently in the G7 countries, the top developing countries, the total varies from 30 million people who are without job in the United States to 1.76 million in Japan. And even in developing and emerging economies like India, 146 million people have lost their jobs. They don't have any salary since last 3 months. If you look in the developing countries, there is one more problem. If one person loses a job, the impact is on average 2 other persons, because it's not like the Western countries or other countries where every family member is working, where husband and wife are working. Here the impact is more. Hence, if you look at India itself, almost 40% population is suffering, and if economy does not revive, this could result into a very, very catastrophic social crisis. Pakistan also, if you see, was already in a big economic crisis. Pakistan is under billions of dollars of debts from from IMF and from other countries. And Pakistan's economy, if you see, 40% is on agriculture, 20% is only on industrialization, and another 40% is on services, which is both positive as well as negative side of this. And I'll come to that later on if we get time to speak over here. Now, several European countries and the Western countries, in order to protect themselves from a very deep economic recession and to avoid unemployment, they have given various schemes like wages subsidies and furloughs, and governments have been bailing out people by paying 70%, 80%, 60% salaries in the account of people who are without work. In May 2020, 7.5 million jobs were furloughed in the UK. Means 7.5 million people were without job, and UK government was paying them, and the cost of these bailouts was approximately $1 trillion over here. In the UK itself, if you see, before the corona crisis, the unemployment rate was 3.6%, and in Q2, which has just ended 2 days back in June, in Q2, the unemployment it has gone up to 10%, and they are expecting that by end of 2020, if the economy revives, if the economy recovers, it is expected to be 7%, which means double than what it was in Q1. UK's prominent leading economic newspaper, Economist, reported that after October, when the furlough scheme is over, when the government is not going to give any bailout on salaries, and now it will be up to businesses to either keep their employees and pay them salaries or lay them off, they say that 1 in 3 restaurants will close down and as a result of this, they won't be able to pay rents. If they're not able to pay rents, then the owner of the restaurant who owns the property will not be able to pay mortgage. Remember, it's a capitalist system where everything is working on bank loans and mortgages. So if they're not able to pay mortgages to the bank, then what happens? The bank goes under crisis. The insurance companies goes under crisis, and this brings a big economic recession. If you see in the developed countries, the highest hit segment industry are those which are labor intensive. That means those people who work on low labor costs, like working in restaurants or service counters and these kind of things in shopping malls and supermarkets and these things. Just 2 or 3 days back, if I'm not wrong, 2 days back or 3 days back, Restaurants Group of Union of Central London have written a letter to the Prime Minister Boris Johnson suggesting a plan to recover economies. And in that plan, where I think 10 or 15 or 20 points, I don't remember, they have written, the most important points are that they have requested to Boris Johnson that you need to remove all the quarantine for people coming inside the UK. There should not be any quarantine. You need to remove the 1 meter social distancing measures also. People are not coming to restaurants. Central London, which is a prime place for tourism, expensive restaurants, and big revenue it generates, is completely vacant and empty, and there are no people over there. There are no tourists over there, and they have warned that if Central London doesn't become with the hustle and bustle which was there before, then entire UK's economy could not recover. And remember, all these things are happening for those countries who have got very good cash reserves. Their GDP, their net trade balance is very, very highly positive. They are wealthiest countries. But what about the poor nations? Even if you look for the Arab countries, the expats living there are literally starving. UAE has removed thousands of people out, and those who are outside the country, they are not expats, are not allowed to come back inside the country. The visas are expired. The residency permits are all cancelled. The oil economy is shrinking. The oil value has gone down significantly. And this is an undeniable fact that economic impact will remain for a long time to come. The question is how to survive with this. Economy might be able to recover only if the world becomes normal with COVID-19 and people feel psychologically relaxed that this virus is not there, the cases are not coming, the deaths are not there, then people might just come out of the fear. But remember, on the other hand, there are dirty political games going on in the world. There is a big trade war which is going on peak between US and China is the world's leading economy now. There are Indians who are trying to boycott Chinese goods. China, on the other hand, is retaliating and is imposing strict laws on Hong Kong, due to which UK is replying on that. On one side, there is a big political tussle going on. On the other side, there is a health threat which is going on in the world. And in between these two, and then there are those powers who want to control the world by controlling the vaccination, by controlling social distancing and social behavior and ethnic cleansing and all depopulation agendas and all these things going on. As a result of all these things, the impact definitely is undeniable, will remain on economy. As of now, people still are not feeling the hit that much because they had cash reserves. The middle class still had some cash reserves. They were still getting some dripping salaries from somewhere. But as we go forward, the cash reserves are going to die, and then people will not have any savings. They're still cutting down expenses. I can show you various figures maybe in some other session that the non-essential goods market has dropped by 50%. Almost 50% non-essential goods market has significantly dropped down. The vehicle market, the car sales market has dropped down by 80%. 80% drop in car sales in Europe. The mobile phone business has got a significant hit, and specifically the upper scale mobiles. The iPhones, the Samsung, they're not selling well. The Chinese phones are still selling to some extent because those who need mobile phone, they're going for low cost and trying to save money. All these things are coming. If you collectively try to analyze these things, then you can understand the impact which is coming. Now, what do we do to survive from this crisis which we are going through? One of the things is that the fundamental mistakes which we have always been doing, and we have done in this also, is that our scholars, our Muslim intellectuals, we did not took this opportunity or the time which we had in the last 3 months to think globally about how to survive economically, at least from a community perspective, from a Muslim community perspective. We could have thought about it, that how are we going to survive when a big population of ours, of our community, is living in those parts of the world which are underdeveloped or are under developing economies. They don't have systems who have even supported them for a day, forget about supporting for the month. In the Western countries, we depend on states to help us, states to bail out, states to give us grants, states to give us credit, states to give us council benefits and all these things. But in the Eastern countries, what do they depend on? The Muslims, they only depend on Allah, that He will set things right. But how Allah is going to set things right? It doesn't just happen miraculously like this. So the only solution now to reduce the impact on economy is we need to seriously look at the Islamic economic doctrine. The Islamic economic doctrine has the solution for this. The doctrine of social justice, which is the underlying doctrine, namesake behind capitalism also, behind communism also. But the social justice from the Islamic perspective, which is underlying theory behind any economic system, needs to be exposed and needs to be opened up. Inshallah, we plan to start a separate series on this to understand the fundamentals of an Islamic economic system, so that those who are experts in the field of economy can work on this and can come out with solutions which can help the community. Today, in a nutshell, we need to revive the Islamic economic fundamental values of infaq, like spending in the way of Allah, trying to help, not accumulating wealth, trying to bring it in movement so that we can try to help others, empower our brothers and sisters and get them moving. Qanaat, contentment. We need to learn to live with the least possible and not try to be extravagant in these tough times. Sadaqah, charity, helping others not just by paying them ration, helping others to give them job, distributing jobs amongst people. Like if one person you are paying $1,000, you can pay 2% $500 and make them work half time, so that at least it is distributed and you're supporting 2 families with that. We need to work hard. And we need to do all these things. These values should get cultivated inside if you want to come out of this. Now, as I said before, as time passes, we are going to see much bigger impact coming on the economy. You have to remember, economy is dependent on what? Economy is dependent on one, natural resources. Then from the natural resources, what industrialization you are doing, what industrialization you have. And third is distribution of wealth. Three pillars of our economic systems are this: natural resources, industrialization, and distribution of wealth. We need to revert to natural resources. We need to see how much natural resources are present in our country where we are, which could be Pakistan, which could be anywhere, and try to work on natural resources and try to work on things which are related to essential needs of the people. Like, for example, Pakistan, 40% economy of Pakistan is on agriculture. People are hardworking. They have made entire Middle East into skies-rocking buildings over there. These Pakistanis have done this. The same Pakistanis can now focus on farming, agriculture, and then the industrialization around the natural resources, and that would become a key for survival for them. We need to live a life, learn to live a life on essentials, sharing with others and distributing wealth amongst others. We need to think now very carefully. We need to think loud and we need to think broad and come out with economic plans to reduce the impact. And remember, we don't need to be selfish. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the best infaq, the best time for infaq, the best time when you can spend in the way of Allah is when you are yourself into difficulty. The best infaq is in the hardest of the time, not when you have excess wealth and you are giving some in the way of Allah. When you yourself have less and still you are spending in the way of Allah is the best infaq which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.